Joining me now to discuss whether or not Trump's McDonald's visit undermines RFK Jr.'s health message is National Organizing Director for American Values 2024, the RFK Jr. Super PAC, Larry Sharpe. Larry, welcome back. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. I'm happy to be here as always.
Okay, so is it bad that President Trump was working at McDonald's for the day for the
I
photo
gotta
op?
I gotta tell you, there's a lot of cool stuff going on here. And look, th- when we talked before, I told you my biggest worry was that the Trump team, because it has a harder job, right? It had to change from Biden all of a sudden to Harris. That was a change. Then it had to absorb RFK Jr., absorb Elon Musk, absorb Tulsi Gabbard, challenging also. If you've worked in a large organization, you know how hard it is to turn that boat around. And my worry was they couldn't turn it in time and Harris could win this thing. I feel like they're turning it. I feel like it's working. That's my gut. I feel like it's actually working. You're seeing them integrate people. And while the McDonald's thing may not have worked exactly with what RFK Jr. would have thought, of course not, right? He's all about make America healthy again. That's his deal. But the make America healthy again message is kind of getting inside the Trump issue. But what does Trump do best? What he does well is he connects to people, right? If you look at what was happening 50 years ago, no question, you look 50 years ago, Democratic Party was the party of the working class. 100% true. Not anymore. It's not. It's the party of elite and educated people, elite women in particular. That's what Democratic Party is. The Republican Party has not been able to absorb the working class well at all, but Trump does. Trump has been able to bring the people into thinking, oh, wait a minute, okay, maybe this is for us. And I think maybe you might call it a scheme or you might call it a joke, whatever it is. Him working at McDonald's actually got people to go, oh, this guy doesn't mind getting his hands dirty. This guy understands how things are. This guy gets us. And rich guys who do that are rare, and he's able to do that. So I think overall it was a home run. I think it worked. We're talking, you and me are talking about it, right? We're talking about it. It's working. I think it worked. Is it not really what the Maha movement is? I think that's true. But right now, the Republican Party really is a coalition of individual people who simply aren't Democrats. So you are going to have that problem within the Republican Party. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I think the other thing that it demonstrates, Larry, is that, people eat McDonald's. Well, so it's not an issue of whether or not people who eat McDonald's are healthy. You can be very healthy and occasionally indulge in McDonald's.
Of course.
I think the bigger picture and part of what the discussion is going to be, should we see a Trump presidency and RFK Jr. is there with Maha, is how can we return to a culture where Americans could eat burgers and fries and still be thin, have a BMI of 26. That was possible when they used to fry the oil that they used to fry wasn't
seed oil. That's
right.
Correct.
And so if that's a part of the conversation, I think Americans would really welcome that, because it shouldn't be a guilty pleasure to have a burger and fries if it wasn't one when I was a kid or when my parents were kids. You really could eat McDonald's a few times a month and still be thin. Nowadays, it's verboten. A lot of people will tell you cannot eat fast food
at all. Yes,
and I
hear
think
it.
It's the seed oils, right?
I think this is the best part, right? This is the merger that I said was tough. This is a tough merger when I've got people who are worried about medical freedom, people who are worried about taxes, people who are about migrants, people who are worried about jobs, people who are about inflation, and I got to get all of them together on one boat going in one direction. This is not a bad thing. I mean, again, if you're exactly right. What you said, RFK Jr. literally put a tweet out that same day saying it's not that McDonald's and burgers and fries is bad. It's the way it's made. We've got to change that. We can make it healthy to do this. This is what it's about, making America healthy again. You are exactly right, Stacy. That's exactly what we're trying to achieve. You shouldn't feel bad because you want to go out and have some fast food once in a while. Of course not. We should look, nobody thinks eating fast food every day is good for you, right? But this is a free country. If you want to eat fast food every day, you may. But we all know it isn't the right thing. But if you want to have fast food once in a while, why not? But we can make it safer. And here's how we do it. Not by forcing laws, but by educating people and by not supporting industries that are harming Americans. And that is what RFK has been talking about before, not giving subsidies to organizations that are harming Americans. Let the free market figure this out. It can, it will. And you see it already. More people are eating healthier all the time. People are moving towards healthier choices. It's clear. You see it on Amazon. You see it in Trader Joe's. You see now almost every supermarket has like a health food section, right? People are moving towards it on their own. You don't have to force them. The Maha Make America Healthy Again movement, I think, is part of that. And I think Trump is going to end up embracing that. But to be fair to Trump, you can't stop him doing what he's good at. Let him do what he's good at.
Yeah, and so it's a two-edged sword, right? When you have someone who is, he's photogenic, he has a way with the camera, he knows when to strike a pose. When he was at the Al Smith dinner, he paused to take a very meaningful sip of his Diet Coke in the clear glass with the
Yes,
straw, and he just froze there for a minute. And of course, they caught that on camera. So I think you're right. Let him be who he is. His personality is
yes,
really driving a lot of this. But there's something
100%,
else that you said there. You said let the private sector decide. So we have seen companies change ingredients, change presentation
100%.
based on national conversation. So if you have RFK Jr. having a conversation about the benefits of tallow and lard versus seed oils and how millions of Americans are avoiding fast food because of the seed oils, if that's it, you will see the major chains change to those oils in a rollout to get those customers back because we have a free market system. I don't think there's anything better than that. Let Americans tell these businesses, I actually want to eat your burger, but I don't want seed oils, and they'll change.
100%. This is my exact point. The conversation, if you remember, this is something that was exciting for me in general, right? I was all about pushing the independent party, pushing the independent movements. Why? Those movements changed the conversation. Now you have Bobby Kennedy Jr. on the Trump train, and you're exactly right. The conversations are changing. But there's a second piece to it that he brings up. You're right, the conversation matters, but also we don't want government subsidizing and now making companies go, well, I'm going to change because now the government's paying me. I want them to change because the people want it, right? That's the critical aspect. And I think this conversation is critical. I think it's a better campaign with Bobby Kennedy Jr. on it. Now, clearly I'm biased, but it doesn't matter if I'm biased. I still think it's true. I think it's a better campaign now because, again, it gets those disparate people who would have been like, what do I do? Do I care? I'm not really a Democrat anymore. And a lot of Bobby Kennedy Jr. supporters, they don't like Democrats anymore because they saw what the Democratic Party did to Bobby Kennedy. They were upset about that. So now they go, where do I go? Well, no, Bobby tells them where to go. So it gives them another opening to make a better conversation within a major party.
Well, and so to your point, Tulsi Gabbard announced last week that she was leaving the independent party and becoming an actual full-blown Republican. And I would love to
Yes.
see someone interview her about that and find out, if there are any material changes within her ideology, or is this shift, driven by her partnership with President Trump? In
Well,
any
I
case,
think
it
I
was a
know.
seismic shift. Oh, yeah,
I,
please share.
I do. I
I
think I
want to hear
know.
more.
And what I think it is what I was talking about. Tulsi Gabbard cares about the working class. That's why she was a Bernie supporter, right? That's what she wants. But she's recognizing the Democratic Party is no longer that, right? In her heart, back in her family, RFK Jr.'s whole family's Democrats, right? Because again, they remember a time when the Democratic Party was the party of the working class. Those days are gone. That's not who the Democratic Party is anymore. And she's like, where do I find a party? And she says, you know what? I'm going to roll the dice and hope it becomes the Republican Party. And I think you see it is happening, right? Like you notice that the unions that support Democrats are usually unions of educated women, like teachers union and nursing unions, educated women. They support Democrats. Working class males, cops, firefighters, I'm sorry, not construction workers, corrections officers. They tend to support Republicans now. And in the middle is kind of nobody. Remember, they said nobody. They're trying to figure out where they're going. It used to be Democrats. Now, they don't know anymore. So I think the Republican Party is in a big shift right now. Again, as I mentioned before, it's trying to get everyone together. And if it does it well, it will become that party. And Tulsi is obviously saying she thinks that's the future.
You mentioned that, even though you're biased because you really support RFK Jr., I have to co-sign with you on the idea that his voice is really needed. He brought
Mm-hmm.
things to this election cycle that hadn't been discussed, and they were in discussions around kitchen tables across the country, but at the national level, they were being ignored. These were considered to be not important issues. when people hear their issue discussed at the national level, they become engaged, and you can bring those people in new ideas, new
Yep.
fresh energy for solutions, which is what Americans are really looking for. I don't think it's so much identity anymore for huge amounts of the independence in the country. It's much more about who will provide a solution, who will attempt to solve this problem. And your point about RFK Jr., I can't stress it enough. I just try to think about this race in 2024 without him in it, and I can't. I've really been
I have
fascinated by
to.
it. It's so good.
This piece, you are so right. Look at Black and Latino voters. There was no way they were going to be voting for the right ever. Now they're considering it. Why? Because they care more about table issues than they care about their identity. You are correct. You see it in the LGBTQ,
Absolutely.
Black, Hispanic, all
Larry,
of them.
they're telling
Yes.
me we're out of time.
Oh,
You're so
sorry.
great to join us today. Thank you for coming on, Stacy Washington Now.